what does Metallica's business look like now? Is it touring mainly? Is it what's like merchandising? I'm curious because you're an entrepreneur. Like you live in the Bay Area. You know tech guys. You're an entrepreneur as well as a.
Yeah. And it's very inspiring to live in the. I mean, San Francisco's a very small town when it comes to this, and all the people that are plotting our future and trying to figure it all out, they live in San Francisco, and it's super cool when you actually get a chance to hang out with these people, and so it's very inspiring. Cliff and Peter were smart enough to sort of anticipate that the primary carrot at the end of that journey for the first 20 years or whatever was the masters.
Yeah.
The masters, the recording tapes, the records. So if you can get ownership of your own records, and I know that sounds a little odd. People go, well, who owned them before? Well, guess who owned them? The record companies owned them. The record companies basically, they gave you money to make a record, then they owned the records, and then they owned them sort of in perpetuity. So Peter and Cliff said, let's gun for getting our masters back. And at that time, there was really nobody that had that. Maybe Springsteen, Prince, one or two other artists at that level, but that was what we went for. And so lo and behold, we ended up getting our masters back. So when Metallica became our own record company 5-7 years ago, all of a sudden our whole business model changed because now we have to sort of run all of this ourselves. So we have our setup in Northern California and have a lot more people in Northern California than we used to, and a lot of people to manage there, and have some great people that all live under the of the umbrella of what we call HQ, and that's our sort of record company and our sort of touring entity and some management stuff there. And then our managers, Q Prime, are here in New York and have a big office, and then we have people in LA and stuff. But it's a very, from a business point of view, it's a very sort of fits in with the way everything else does, which is the word autonomy. I mean, we try to be free, we try to be autonomous, we try to make decisions not based on anything other than what's right for Metallica and for how we see our own sort of path, or how we see, and it's, it's a combination of half the time you feel like you're sort of steering it, and the other half the time you feel like you're just hanging on as it's kind of just steering itself. And I think the one thing that you hear a lot from when these tech people sit there and go, well, the guys at Apple, they must know what iPhone 25 looked like because they certainly look that far ahead. I can tell you from knowing some of these people, they don't know what iPhone 11 looks like, okay? Because everything in that world is that you have to be ready for what the other guy's gonna do, all that's gonna come and ambush you. And so you have to be ready to change your business model at any time. Yeah. And any of those people in that world will tell you that that's the primary sort of MO, really. And so with what we try to do in our little world is nobody really knows. I mean, the demise of the record companies, of the music business, has sort of come and gone. And now it's kind of the Wild West. So whenever you make a record, you have to be prepared to sort of just move in whatever ways feels right at that very moment. Because 6 months from now, 12 months from now, the business may look different. So you always have to be sort of ready to sort of just hang on as the beast is sort of steering itself through some of these different dynamics.
I want to get to audience questions. I have one really weird question to ask you before we do that. Master Puppets, you and James Hetfield were in a house in the Bay Area. It made me think of Steve Jobs and Woz, 10 years earlier, about an hour away, working on Apple.
I like that association. I like. Let's see where this is going.
Now it's going to get dark. Is there? Apple has survived Steve Jobs. Is there a Metallica that is going to be around 100 years from now?
It's a great question. It's something that we occasionally circle. There's no, and not to dwell on the Bay Area element and dinner parties in the Bay Area, but when you sort of the conversation in the Bay Area generally is primarily about, when people look into the future, it's about artificial intelligence. And it's about how do you adapt AI into everything that we know on a daily basis. And so when you start looking at the possibilities of how that could play into music, obviously there's been a few sort of go-arounds with the, what's it called? Help me out here. The what? The holograms, yeah.
Oh, yes.
So the
right,
holograms type of thing. So there's a few artists that are looking at sort of sending artists on the road in hologram form.
Right.
I think that, when we were in Copenhagen 3 months ago, and we were doing rehearsals for the European tour, and we had this whole new visual show thing happening, and what was going on was that, so we're in an arena, and they're showing some of the visuals and the dynamics and the aesthetics and all the hoopla to us, and we're sitting up in row 33 up there, like looking at the whole thing, and they've got a live show of us somewhere on the summer tour, blasting out over the PA. The full rig is up. There's a giant PA, a giant stage, and a giant light show. And I'm sitting up there, and the whole thing is happening, right? 120 dB loud music, all the lights, the video screens, everything's going on, except there are no musicians on stage.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, there's gotta be a version of this somewhere in our future where people, because, and as loopy as that sound, and as kind of silly as I'm exaggerating for effect, what is a concert?
Right.
What is music? What's a concert? To me, it's about connecting people, and it's about sharing an experience together. And what we try to do when we play gigs is to, erase the wall between the audience and the band. And just sort of like what we're doing. I'm looking at you guys as much as we're looking at each other. It's like just basically about doing away with that division between an audience and artists. And so I'm sitting there going, like, maybe one day, if the primary objective of a concert is to bring people together and share an experience, why do you need Lars Ulrich or James Hetfield there, or Kirk Hammett or Robert Trujillo? If you've got the music, you've got the equipment, you've got the lights, you've got the video, there's got to be some version of that in there by the time all the Elon Musks and all the Mark Benioffs and the rest of them have figured out where artificial intelligence plays into all this. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, I don't know if you're a music guy. I don't know if you saw the new Blade Runner, where there's the crazy fight scene in the weird hologram, Elvis hologram.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
you might want. Would you like to be a hologram 100 years from now?
Listen, I don't know about anybody else in here, but when it's done, it's done. I'm not really. I don't have a huge. If there's a way for it to work out, if it can be done in some way where it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's not just like some fucking weird cash in or whatever, but
right.
if there's a way to do it in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Because, listen, at the end of the day, and I am actually really serious about this, to me, the further I get into this endeavor, music and Metallica, people go, what's it like to be in Metallica? It's like, we're all in Metallica. Metallica is something that exists in the ether. It's like, it's not, Lars Ulrich doesn't own Metallica, James Hetfield doesn't own Metallica, Metallica doesn't own Metallica. It's something that we all share. And it's something that we all use to connect. All of us are, I believe, like, the basic human need is to connect to other human beings. That's what we all strive for in any ways possible. And so if there is a way that could be 100 years from now, 50 years from now, and I'm a hologram, fine with me. It's fine with me. Miles, you run with it.
On that note, yeah, Miles can play. All right.